I love the blending between house and garden that Shelley Coglizer has achieved here in Northern California.
It's really living with nature, and I do think this is why people love being in California.
Working with local garden designers, Shelley has made this half-acre garden seem much larger by creating many smaller areas with contrasting garden styles. 2 courtyards contain intimate small gardens. A formal garden design harmonizes with the space around the swimming pool, while a more naturalistic area is just outside the iron fence. After decades of changes, this is a real garden showcase, starting with the driveway off the front entrance to the house. We're standing in your driveway, and it's so elegant. The entrance to your home, and the plants are almost as important as architecture as they are as plants.
The house was very plain, so I felt it needed some drama against it.
The garage is almost a garden feature with the way you've got vines on it.
I have spent so many hours training that vine on that garage, and it's kind of one of those nutty little things I do, but I do think it worked out because I wanted it to just fall away and become part of the garden. And when we moved in here, this house was just a little redwood box, but it has been fun because of a box you can expand, and we added courtyards. And it was important because it was so plain to have very architectural plants, in my view, to bring it all together.
You have added color. The color's almost sort of just little punctuation marks where you've got beautiful forms and shapes. You've got the boxwood and the little hardy geranium there. I think that's Canta Bergensi. Such a fun name to say.
Yes, that's very sweet.
Those are rhododendrons in the pots.
They are, and they're really fabulous when they come out.
This purple color is really pretty, and you've sort of picked it up with the geranium.
Right. That was a lucky break, actually.
And your use of the Italian cypress they're almost like columns.
These are also interesting because they really are 30 or 40 years old, so they've taken a long time to become this size. And
that's amazing. So they've been here for 30 or 40 years, and they're only this big.
Right.
And you don't have to prune them?
No, that's how it is.
Wow, that's great. Tell me about this netting.
Well, we're in Lafayette, and there are deer all over. The deer watched us plant and came the next day and rubbed their antlers against us.
So the netting discourages them from rubbing.
Yes, and it has worked. Now maybe they, decided to have their fun and haven't come back. I don't know. But the deer are a real problem around here. So
well, they're real sentries here at the entrance to your house.
I like the texture of them. I think it's very nice. I really do.
These gates really frame the entrance here.
I really love these gates. They really started me with a passion for iron, and we've used it throughout. You'll see throughout the garden we've used it in various places, but I do like it when it really rusts.
It gives it a real sense of age, and
they just sort of fit here.
So you had the gates first, and then you put I guess this is an arbor or pergola?
An arbor, exactly, and then I love this French tile I bought, but it didn't show up enough, and so we
had
had
a frame made.
Yes, so
that's a great idea.
Just keep on going.
The sound of water is always adds a soothing feeling, and in this little intimate space, it's really quite wonderful. And I love that. I think they're canales, the roof drainage tiles that you've adapted for the water, so it comes down the one and then drips into the lower. And what a great architectural accent there.
Well, did you ever see that Audrey Hepburn movie, Roman Holiday, where she puts her hand in and wants to know the truth? It's a copy of that. But unfortunately, my husband really does not like it, and he puts cigars in it, or there'd be a rosebud or something when I come out in the morning, a surprise.
Your tile with the baby tears in between, that's a great treatment. It really softens it, but yet it's still very geometrical. Now, is that a weed?
That's a weed. Yay, let's go get that. I have spent my life putting this baby tears in and then looking for these little tiny weeds, which always grow there, but I do think it's a nice softening for it.
And this stays evergreen all year for you?
Yes,
that's great.
Does. I am a native California. I've lived here all my life. Grew up in Oakland and went to schools there, and then wound up at Berkeley, where I met my husband, Bill.
Shelley and Bill have been married nearly 50 years. They moved to this house 40 years ago and raised 2 sons and a daughter. Although Bill doesn't garden, he appreciates what Shelley has done, and so does their family.
I think the wonderful thing about Shelley's garden is that it attracts the family. They enjoy coming here. So even though they've seen the garden before, and before that, and even before that, they still love to walk through and find out what Grandma Shelley has done in the meantime.
I could see why the family wants to keep coming back. The entrance to the house is doubly welcoming because after you walk through the outer courtyard, there's another intimate space that draws you in. What an inviting courtyard. It looks like lemon or lime trees, I'm not sure.
Oh, well, neither are we. My husband and I have a huge controversy because they're small. I ordered limes because it does freeze here, and they don't freeze them as much as a lemon tree. So anyway, when they're green, I call them limes. When they're yellow, my husband knows they're lemons.
So
But
they
anyway.
start out green and turn yellow.
Right.
They're beautiful forms, and there are 4 of them.
Right.
And then the view out to the swimming pool and the arbor beyond you can
Kinda
look straight
repeats.
through the house.
Yes, you can.
And above us, that is, I don't think I've ever seen a dome, an iron dome. What a wonderful feature to.
Well, that's one of the new things that we have here, and I am really excited about it. It's continuing the iron thing, but I do really like it.
Coming up, Erica and Shelley put a new spin on ivy planters. And later, a weathered bench becomes an outdoor portrait studio. Stay with us.
3 different designers.
I couldn't believe that Shelley Cogleiser's garden covers only a half acre, but her use of strong design elements like this striking series of arches helps create the illusion that the garden is larger. Of course, these structures also give Shelley a place to grow some colorful climbing plants. This is enchanting, this row of arbors, or what would you call them?
We call them the hoops.
What is that you've trained on top of the hoops?
That's Magnolia denudata, and it's very beautiful. In January, February, it gives beautiful white flowers. And I love clematis. I really do. I work hard at it to make it work, and I think they're especially pretty this time of year.
Oh, they're stunning. And the iron, did you have these designed and built for this space?
Yes, yes. And then we continue with the iron. We had this funky little building over here, and we decided to do an iron grill there.
Well, it really sort of hides the building. You don't even notice
right,
that
it was
there.
it was really an eyesore. Now it's something to grow things on.
If you were to just have these iron hoops, as you call them, is this the hoop garden?
This is our hoop garden.
The hoop garden.
Just to identify.
Just having these without any plants, they would, be pretty harsh. But not only have you trained the roses and the clematis and the magnolia, but you've got the plants on the sides that really soften it, make it just this tunnel of lushness that we're walking through.
Thank you. I really love walking through here.
And this clematis is stunning, the color. I love that purpley blue azure.
Yes. That's Lady Northcliffe.
Lady Northcliffe.
Yes. She's happy here.
She is. How many years has she been growing on
Oh, at least 10.
this? Wow, the same.
Yes.
So a couple plants.
One on each side.
And how do you treat these? We're in California, so you've got fairly mild conditions. After they'll bloom, and do you cut them back? Or?
I'm trying to figure it out exactly, but I started cutting them back, and it does give a second growth. And then I fertilize it more. I thought you only fertilized them once a year, but when I think about it, I come out and give it some fertilizer, and it seems to really work.
The hoop garden path leads to a narrow woodland area at the side of the house. You can get great views of this garden even from inside. Another way that Shelley connects her house to the outdoors.
What I do love about living in this house, even though it is our little glass box, we do have wonderful views. From every room in the house, you can see part of the garden and be able to enjoy it.
A lot of gardeners are faced with areas like this one on the side of the house that it's narrow,
Yes.
and you want to do something, and you've got big mature trees, in your case these beautiful oaks, and you've added some birches, but it can be really tricky to what's going to grow there and what'll do well. And you've done such a good job. The planting bed is not very wide with all this foliage and texture.
Well, it has been one of the last places that we have developed, but not really developed that much. I do like that little stream going through here that we haven't done too much with. Maybe 10 years from now I'll be out there planting it like mad, but I like it now.
And the columns are great. You've got these columns of ivy. They balance. They're very clean lines, great contrast to the sort of weaving and the woven look of all the foliage over here. They're very simple and clean.
They are, and I, as you can see, they're against a stucco house, and there is no light behind it, and so therefore it dies off in the back. So I thought of this brilliant idea, but I'm not quite sure it's going to work. I put them on cake turners. They're laying in gravel, and then the cake turners, and you turn them around, and they're supposed to be moved a quarter of a circle every month and a half. But anyway, that's my latest idea, and we'll just see.
I think it's a great idea. People are going to be copying that.
Oh, well, good.
Putting
They
their
can go
topiaries on cake turners.
Right.
It's more than a bench. It's a family tradition. Stay with us.
HGT.
I really like Shelley Coglizer's choice of colors in her Northern California garden. Not only does she use flowering plants, she's also creative with foliage color, especially in areas with lots of shade. Does this area have a special name?
We just call it the yellow garden, but I do love it, especially this time of year. The different color combinations of yellows and chartreuses, I think is really fun to walk through.
It's refreshing.
Yes.
And this little gem I recognize as a blue-eyed grass, although it has yellow flowers.
Yes.
From the flower structure, that's Cicericium striatum.
Right.
And it's got that wonderful variegated foliage. And this must be a cultivar.
I think that's Aunt May.
Aunt May. And it picks up the yellow in the Hackanachoa.
Right, it certainly does.
So you must think about these things when you're placing plants in the garden or moving them around.
Moving them around. I mean, that was one of the first plants many years ago that I really fell in love with, it being variegated like that. And then all of a sudden I have it here and have it there and everywhere.
And the hosta, that's more of a sort of a yellow-green. That's a pretty color, too.
Right. I love their big leaves. I think they're quite an amazing plant.
The cousas are just stunning.
Aren't they lovely? I think they're such an elegant tree. I really do. They're one of my favorites.
The cousa dogwood is great, and it blooms a little bit later in the season. And I'm surprised to see, here we are in California, outside of San Francisco, they're thriving. And they thrive in Pennsylvania and throughout the Northeast.
They are
very
just
adaptable.
Wonderful.
This whole area is really chartreuse.
It
almost.
is.
The creeping jenny and the
black mondo.
The black mondo is a real nice punch coming right out of
it's
the
a real
golden.
eye popper. I really like it. How it says, "Look at me."
And I didn't even. Right behind us, this wonderful clematis trained on a birdhouse.
I spend a lot of time training. It doesn't look like it, but I do. I like to see things crawling and melding with other things. Well, it just intrigues me.
And wow, that little heuchera is another, sort of like the black mondo. It's another eye popper.
Right.
With that, I don't usually think of that as an eye popper, except against the golden creeping jenny. It really is.
I think so, and I really like that. I think it's called cathedral windows. I think it's especially beautiful heuchera.
And these ferns, I lust after these. But this is something you can do in California that you can't do where I live in Zone 7 or colder places. I mean, this is a permanent year-round plant.
Oh, yes, it is. And it's big, and it grows and takes a lot of space. And that one especially thrives because it's on a lot of water.
Do you know the name of this?
Tree fern.
Australian tree fern?
Yes.
Beautiful.
I think so.
And the Lutyens bench with the moss does look as if it's been here forever.
Right.
This bench has a real history in your family?
Oh, it does. It's become history because it's been here so long. We have a granddaughter, and every time she comes up, I always sit her on there and take a picture of her. And then all through the years.
So you've got a catalog of her growing
How
up
she
and
grows
how
up.
she changes on the bench.
Exactly. So it has become a tradition, a really nice one.
The weathered bench is just one of many seating areas that Shelley has designed in her garden. She's just made a special one for her granddaughter, Sarah.
We have a brand new granddaughter, and she's 20 months old, so we had to have another location in our garden to be photographed in a special place. That will be her place through the years to be photographed.
And when Shelley wants to spend time just relaxing in her garden, she's created a special spot just for herself.
I get to sit down, and I do read out there. It pleases me a lot.
Coming up next, an elegant formal garden is perfect for the pool. But just outside these gates, there's a wild side to Shelley's garden. Stay with us.
Patio.
I was really impressed by the way Shelley Cogleiser created her garden around the natural features of her property. But when the family first moved here some 40 years ago, they didn't realize what they had.
I don't think when we were so young we really realized how wonderful this piece of property is, because I do feel with the mature oaks that is something that is truly California, and the stream and then the quietness around here, and we're off the main road, and so it's become a little bit of heaven for us.
This wonderful backdrop with the redwoods, is that something that you planted, or were they here when you got here?
My husband and 2 children planted it. It's about the only thing they've ever planted, and they love them because they come every year and say, I planted them, look how they grow.
So how many years ago was that?
Oh, that was probably 30 years ago, had to have been.
And this area, Shelley, right off the back of the pool, off the back of the house, it's still very formal in feeling. You've got the boxwood hedge, the raised bed with the same color stone that you've got for the patio, the Santolina, which are wonderful shapes, and then the hedge, really beautiful hedge of iceberg rose.
I think we sort of kept it formal here because we started with a pool that was here when we bought the house, and each side is equal. But this, I saw a picture of the Santolina checkerboard, I call it, and I loved it in a magazine. And so I have been working on that for maybe 10 years, trying to get it right because of the drainage, and it's so irritating because that plant is supposed to be easy. Well, it's finally raised up off the ground in a box and has a lot of lava rock in it for drainage.
California is probably one of the few places that you can dine outdoors almost year-round.
Isn't it wonderful? It really is. And we do, truly, every night during the summer, we sit under this arbor. It gives us shade, and
it's iron, and then you've got these stone columns.
Right.
And that wisteria comes from one vine.
Right.
How many years has this been here, Shelley?
It's probably been here 10 years, and it's just...
it's a good grower. Do you have to hack it back all the time?
All the time. All the time.
Just outside the clip formality of the pool and dining area, there's a hillside garden where Shelley indulges another side of her personality.
When you go out through those iron gates, that is the wild part of Shelley that has come out.
So this is less formal.
Right.
Plants are, you let them do as they will.
There are no shears, lawnmowers, or anything. It just let them grow and see what happens.
We're standing right next to a pretty steep bank. It's almost as if you've carved into the hill, and you've got the oleander at the top.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody plants oleander because the deer don't eat it. It doesn't need water, and it just grows. And this tree coming up is one of my favorites, this box elder.
Oh, that's flamingo?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's such an improvement over the regular box elder. The variegated form is more controlled and so pretty.
The idea of putting it there was to then blend in with the birch garden. And the reason we have a birch garden is, again, my husband is not a gardener, and he did say, what I like is birch. So then we put in, how many? 20 or 30 of them.
And they're beautiful.
So it was to carry the white into that to make it flow.
Shelley enjoys her garden in many ways. She delights in sharing her gardening experiences with interested visitors.
I have felt lucky to have enthusiastic people come and share with them what I have been trying to achieve here, and I always welcome feedback.
She also enjoys the garden with her family, but like most gardeners, Shelley Cogleiser finds that the garden is its own reward.
What I love about gardening is that I enjoy going out in the morning. It's my favorite time of the day. I always take my cup of coffee with me, and I really go out and I talk to the plants. I walk out, and I really think I'm so fortunate to live here. It's glorious to be alive.
When I visit gardens, I make new friends and discover new plants. Here are some treasures from Shelley Cogleiser's garden. How wonderful and natural it is that you can let your dwarf Italian cypress grow without pruning. I really think it gives a garden a European feel. I also love the way Shelley has used baby tears to fill the spaces between the tiles in her courtyard. From a distance, it reminds me of green velvet. And what about Lady Northcliffe? What a beautiful example of a clematis. I really like the way Shelley trained hers to grow over an arch. In another part of Shelley's garden, there's a flower I'm just dying to have in my garden. Aunt May is a yellow form of blue-eyed grass. The leaves have a creamy yellow stripe and to me are almost as pretty as the flowers. And I couldn't believe the spectacular iceberg roses beside the pool. What a great choice. It blooms its heart out all season long, and it's wonderful for cutting and bouquets. If you want to be inspired, visit someone else's garden. You never know what you might find. Join us again on A Gardener's Diary.